Welcome to Late Night Horror Stories and True Crime. Tonight's tale comes from the icy darkness of NOME, Alaska, a place where strange lights in the sky are just the beginning. They look like us, they walk like us, but they never blink. And if they catch you blinking, you're already dead. This is the ones who never blink. Settle in, keep your eyes open, and whatever you do, don't look away. I remember the first night the sky opened. It was late January. Wind-blown snow stung like tiny teeth. I was heading back from a job site along the Teller Highway, middle of nowhere, ice road stretching like a scar across the white. That's when the radio in my truck crackled. Static, high-pitched whining, and then just silence. I looked up. Above the tree line, maybe 100 yards off the road, was something I still struggle to describe. A disc, wide and silent, hovering perfectly still. It glowed faint blue, like ice under moonlight. There was no engine hum, no movement, no sound. It just watched. And then, like it never wanted to be remembered, it disappeared. No streak, no flash, just gone. I told myself it was fatigue, just shadows and stress. Until the calls started coming into the dispatch office the next day, over 24 people saw it. Same time, same place, same description. NOME small. When something strange happens, we all feel it ripple. The weird started slow. First, my friend Brent called me, said his wife was off. Said she'd been looking at him. Strange. She just watches me, he said, like she's trying to remember how to move her face. I asked if she was sick. He paused, then said, "She doesn't blink, Logan." Not once. I watched for 10 minutes. I thought he was joking, but his voice was flat. Dead serious. I told him to get her checked out. He never got the chance. That night, I got a call from one of the troopers. They found Brent dead in his garage, collapsed near his tool bench. Looked like a stroke at first, but there was blood from the ears, and one of his eyes had ruptured, like it had been crushed from the inside. They said it might have been a brain aneurysm, but I knew Brent. He didn't have health issues, and something about the way they said it, like they didn't believe it either. I kept noticing things after that. At the gas station, a guy stared at me too long. I mean, full eye contact, unmoving for maybe 5 minutes while I waited in line. Not a twitch, not a blink, just eyes fixed like a dead animal's. When I glanced away, I saw him smile, barely, almost like a smirk. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe I'd just been reading too much Reddit, getting caught up in the UFO crap. Until the warehouse. 2 days later, I was helping clear inventory at the old shipping depot. One of the part-timers, Maria, walked in, usually bubbly, but this time, blank. She stood near me holding a clipboard, not speaking, just watching. I turned to ask her what was up. She didn't answer. And that's when I noticed it. She hadn't blinked, not once. I stared, testing it, made a joke. Nothing, no flinch, just those wide, shiny eyes locked on me. Out of instinct, I blinked. Twice. And then she moved. Just a step closer, and then another. No expression. Just closer. My chest tightened. I made an excuse, bathroom, anything, and left. I didn't even clock out. Just got in my truck and drove. That was around noon. At 11:47 p.m., someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. I live out past the edge of town, in a 1-story with a generator and no neighbors for 2 miles. Nobody comes to visit me, especially not at midnight. I grabbed the gun I keep behind the coat rack and looked through the peephole. It was Maria. She stood perfectly still. No jacket, no gloves. Her breath fogged the air, but she didn't shiver. Her face looked normal, until you noticed how blank it was, smooth, unmoving. And she was staring directly at the peephole, her eyes unblinking. Then she spoke. No knock, no motion. Just a voice that felt like it came through the door, rather than from her mouth. I saw you blink. I didn't move, didn't breathe. She didn't either. After 30 seconds, she turned around and walked into the snow, barefoot, vanishing into the trees like she'd never been there. I stayed awake the rest of the night. Now I've got cotton stuffed in my ears, sunglasses on in the house, and I've been practicing keeping my eyes open longer than any normal person should. I set timers. I use eye drops every hour. Because I don't know who else saw me blink. But I know what happens if they come back. Because Brent blinked. And now he's dead. And Maria, she's not Maria anymore. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Just sat in my chair, shotgun across my lap, sunglasses on, eyes wide. Every creak in the cabin made me flinch, and I couldn't stop hearing it. Her voice, not muffled, not outside, but in me. I saw you blink. The next morning I told myself it was a nightmare. Stress hallucination. Maybe I was losing it. Until I pulled into the depot yard for my shift and saw her, Maria. Same coat, same smile, clipboard in hand, like nothing had happened. She waved. Just once, eyes locked on mine, and still didn't blink. I watched her for 20 straight minutes that day. She greeted co-workers, moved pallets, joked with customers, all normal, except for the fact that her eyelids never moved. By noon, I knew something was wrong with the whole town. A mail carrier keeled over in front of the post office, blood from his ears, tongue swollen. Everyone said stroke. But a tourist posted a video online, moments before it happened. The carrier was speaking to a man, bald, heavy coat, dark glasses, who stood completely still the entire time. And when the camera zoomed in, that man never blinked. I tried asking around. I called in sick and stopped by the cafe. Watched people come and go. Half of them seemed normal, but some, their eyes were too wide, like they forgot how to pretend. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe no one wanted to. I needed someone who would listen. That's when I remembered Tamra Wren. She ran the tiny ham radio station just outside town. Used to be a conspiracy nut. Chemtrails, underground bases, all that. Everyone laughed at her until the sky lit up. Now, her call-ins had doubled, and her boards were full of people talking about the Watchers. I drove out there that night. Her place was built like a bunker. Concrete walls, no windows, dual padlocks on every door. She met me at the side hatch with a pistol in hand, asked me one question. When's the last time you saw someone blink? That's all it took. I was in. I told her about Brent, about Maria, about the voice at my door. She didn't even flinch. Tamra pulled up a map of NOME on her laptop. I've marked everyone I've seen in the last 72 hours who didn't blink once during a full interaction, she said. Dozens of dots. They don't feel like aliens, she muttered. They feel like mimics, shadows trying to pass for human, and I think they're getting better at it. She leaned close, whispered something that chilled me worse than any wind. I think they're copying people who already died, just replacing them. I asked her what to do. She handed me a pack of medicated eye drops and said, "Don't blink. Not in front of them, ever. If you do, it's like a switch flips. They know." Then she looked toward the hallway, eyes narrowing. And once they know, they wait. Could be minutes, could be hours. but you're already dead. That night I sat in my truck for an hour before going inside. Every noise made me twitch. I taped a mirror to the front window to watch the tree line. Just after 2 a.m., I saw a shape move behind the pines. It didn't come closer. It just stood there, watching. I reached for the light switch and realized my eyes were burning. I hadn't blinked in almost 4 minutes, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own body betraying me, because blinking wasn't natural anymore. It was a death sentence. The next morning I went back to work. Maria was already on site. She smiled again, too wide. I dropped a pen in front of her fast, like a reflex test. She didn't flinch, just stared down at it, then up at me. And for the first time, she spoke directly to me, like she knew the game was over. "It's not about who you see, Logan," she said softly. "It's about who saw you." Then she turned and walked away, still smiling, still unblinking. There's a certain kind of paranoia that sinks into your bones. The kind where you stop trusting reflections, where you avoid mirrors, not because of what might be behind you, but because you might see yourself blink. That's where Tamra and I were by the end of the week. She'd stopped going into town entirely. I'd taken to wearing tinted goggles indoors, dousing my eyes in drops every hour. We used code phrases when speaking on her ham radio, because we didn't know who was listening anymore, or what. We called them blinkers at first, but that was wrong. We were the blinkers, the mistake makers, the ones still cursed by biology. They weren't blinking because they weren't built to, or maybe they didn't need to. Or maybe, Tamra whispered one night, they blink so fast we can't perceive it. But that didn't track, because if they blinked, even once, they wouldn't be able to tell us apart. No, it was something deeper, a test, a trigger. They're watching, waiting. And when you fail, when your eyelids flutter even once, they know. Tamra decided we needed proof. She wanted to test them. We agreed on a controlled target, Jeffrey Osborne, a warehouse driver we both suspected. Silent type, glassy eyes, always watching people, a second too long. Tamra set it up. She posed as a customer at the gas station where he stopped for lunch. I watched from across the street in my truck, phone recording through binoculars. She asked him for directions, small talk, weather, prices. He answered flatly, politely, but she kept him engaged. 3 full minutes, no blink. That's when she pretended to sneeze, just a quick, "Achoo!" and blinked. Obvious, deliberate. He froze, didn't react, didn't say a word, just turned his head slowly toward her and said very calmly, "Thank you," then walked away. Tamra laughed nervously as she returned to the truck. "Well," she said, "that confirms it." But I was already starting the engine. Because I'd seen it. Just before he left, Osborne had smiled. Barely, like he'd won something. That night, Tamra didn't answer her radio. I tried texting, calling. Nothing. By midnight, I drove out to her bunker. The door was wide open. The interior was trashed. Papers everywhere, monitors shattered, her laptop burning hot to the touch. A trail of blood led from her desk to the back room. I followed it, shotgun trembling in my hands. She was sitting in the shower, eyes open, face twisted, not in fear, but in shock. Blood had poured from her nose and ears. One eye had ruptured, just like Brent. But what stuck with me was the mirror. She'd scrawled something in red on the fogged glass, smeared and trembling. "Don't look them in the eyes. They see your blink before you do." I didn't go home after that. I drove in circles around the outskirts of NOME, parked behind an old cannery, slept with one eye open. literally. My phone buzzed with texts from Maria. "Where are you? Are you coming to work? You're not safe alone." I didn't answer, but she knew, because she'd seen me blink. The next night, just after 2 a.m., I parked my truck behind the loading bay of the depot and waited. Sure enough, a figure emerged from the far snowbank and started walking toward me. Not Maria, not Osborne. Someone else. Male, clean-shaven, dark jacket, sunglasses despite the pitch-black night. I couldn't see his eyes, but I didn't need to. He stopped 10 feet from the truck and raised one hand. "Logan," he said, "you're tired. You want to blink." I held my breath. "It's natural," he continued, almost soothing. "You're still human." I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. "But we saw you," he said. "She saw you." Then he leaned forward until his face was just inches from the windshield. "We all did." And he smiled. I slammed the truck into drive and took off into the dark. Snow kicked up behind me like smoke. The ringing started in my ears, faint at first, like distant bells but growing louder. My head throbbed. My eyes felt like sandpaper. I could feel it happening. They'd flipped the switch. It wasn't a maybe anymore. They were coming for me. I don't remember the drive back to town. I just remember gripping the wheel, tears streaming from my burning eyes, trying not to blink as I pulled onto the side of the road and screamed into my hands. I kept hearing that voice. "She saw you." We all did. It wasn't just Maria now, it was them. They all knew. And yet I was still alive. That thought haunted me more than anything. Because if they wanted me dead, they'd already done it. I stopped showing up to the depot. Stopped answering my phone. But I kept driving past the place, hoping to see it empty, burned down. Anything to prove it wasn't still crawling with them. No luck. Maria was still there, still smiling, still clocking in. That's when it hit me. She hadn't killed me yet, because of where I blinked. At work. Too many eyes. Too much risk. It wasn't compassion. It was calculation. She didn't want blood on the warehouse floor, so she waited and came at night. That week, she visited 3 times. Never knocked loud. Just a soft, deliberate tap. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't open the door, just stared through the peephole while she stood in the cold, eyes fixed on the wood, breathing calmly and smiling. The second time, she spoke again. "I'm not here for you, Logan." Pause. "Not yet." She tilted her head, same way a wolf does when it smells blood. "You still have time." I started boarding up the windows, nailed every door shut, but one. Shut off the power. Lived by candlelight. I covered every reflective surface, stopped looking in mirrors, because every time I did, I saw it, the flicker, the blink. Even alone, I wasn't safe. I went back to Tamra's bunker, desperate for clues, anything. Inside, I found old notebooks, scribbles, theories, charts. One page stood out, conversion cycle written in red. Below it, observation confirmation, via blink, pressure escalation, ringing, headaches, bleeding, proximity visitation, final contact, death or conversion. That last word sent ice down my spine. Conversion. What if it wasn't always about killing? What if some people didn't die after blinking? What if some changed? I thought about Maria, about her perfect speech patterns, her memory of inside jokes, her knowledge of routes and inventory and co-workers' birthdays. Was she still Maria? Or just wearing her like a suit? I started recording myself, watching my own footage frame by frame. I caught myself blinking over a dozen times across a day, even when I thought I wasn't. Each time I panicked, thought the pressure in my skull grew. swore the ringing got louder. And it did. It always did. It wasn't just psychosomatic anymore. The symptoms were real now. One morning I coughed and saw a fleck of blood in the sink. That night I heard whispering under my floorboards. I tried to leave town, packed a bag, fueled the truck, took the road north toward Teller. Didn't even make it 10 miles. They were waiting. 3 figures in the road, standing shoulder to shoulder, faces hidden in hoods. They didn't move, didn't flinch as I swerved off into the ditch. By the time I climbed out, they were gone, not a footprint left behind. Back home, I found my front door unlocked. I hadn't left it that way. Inside, everything looked untouched, except for one thing. On my pillow, perfectly centered, was a sticky note. 3 words written in neat block letters. You blinked again. I fell into the chair, shotgun on my lap, vision blurry, ears ringing. I don't sleep anymore, I barely eat. Every night Maria returns. She stands in my yard with her arms folded like she's on break. One night I opened the door. I don't know why. She didn't flinch, didn't smile, just stepped forward. She looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "You should rest soon. It's going to be harder to keep them open." Then she left. She's right. My lids are heavy now. Even with the drops, they feel like sandpaper. Sometimes I wake up from micro naps I didn't know I took. Sometimes I hear knocking when no one's there. Sometimes I see her inside, in the hallway, smiling with her arms folded. They're not just watching anymore, they're waiting. I don't know how long I've been awake. The clocks don't work anymore. My phone won't charge. Batteries die faster than I can replace them. And outside, it's just dark, the kind of dark that settles inside you. I've taped my eyelids open twice now. Once with electrical tape, once with super glue. That second time, I almost tore my lashes out getting it off. Not sure it was worth it. Because no matter what I do, no matter how hard I fight, my body wants to blink. And they know it. Maria comes every night now. She doesn't knock anymore, she just waits. Sometimes in the yard, sometimes under the window. Last night I found her on the porch. She didn't say anything, just stood there, watching me. I didn't open the door. I knew if I saw her eyes, I'd blink. I could feel it in me like a pressure valve ready to burst. It's not just her anymore, they've all started coming, one by one. People I used to know, neighbors, co-workers, Brent, even Tamra. She was at the edge of the tree line last night, wearing a long coat and no gloves, her dead eye still bloodshot. Her face was empty, lips parted in a silent smile. They stood in a semicircle, watching, waiting. This morning I woke up sitting in the bathtub, my shotgun in my lap, the faucet dripping onto my feet. I had no memory of getting in there, and my ears, they wouldn't stop ringing. Like 1,000 wasps inside my skull. My nose bled steadily for 20 minutes. When I looked in the mirror, my pupils were different sizes. I could feel it. Something had changed inside me. I tried one last time. I packed my gear, loaded my rifle, and headed north toward the mountains. Away from NOME, from the depot, from the blinking and the watchers. I made it maybe 12 miles. The snowstorm came out of nowhere. No wind, no warning, just white swallowing everything. I saw shapes moving in it. People, walking, eyes shining faintly in the flurries. Some with mouths open, some with heads tilted, and none of them blinked. I found a trapper's cabin, empty, abandoned, untouched. I sealed the door, stuffed the cracks, blacked out the windows. Then I waited. The silence stretched for hours, and then tap, 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 not on the door, from inside the room. I turned around, and Maria was there, sitting in the dark, hands folded in her lap like she'd always been there. She didn't look at me. She looked through me and smiled. "Do you remember the first time you blinked, Logan?" I raised the shotgun. She didn't flinch. "You blinked when you were born. You'll blink when you die." She stood and walked slowly toward me. Her face didn't move, not once. It's not pain that kills you. It's recognition. When we see you blink, we know what you are. I backed into the corner, eyes wide, throat trembling. "And now," she whispered, tilting her head, "so do you." The ringing reached a scream. My skull felt like it cracked from the inside. I dropped to my knees. Blood poured from my nose and ears. I felt my vision swim, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw something behind her face. Not Maria, not human. Something black, slithering, smiling, watching, waiting, and then I blinked. Silence. Total. The pain stopped. The pressure was gone. I looked up. Maria was gone. They all were. Just an empty room. Cold. Still. Except there was a mirror. And in it, I saw myself. Still kneeling, still breathing. But something was wrong. I leaned closer. My reflection stared back. Unmoving. And it didn't blink. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you enjoyed The Ones Who Never Blink, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your theories in the comments below. Until next time, keep your eyes open. Because on late-night horror stories and true crime, the real terror is just one blink away.